Is the Pearl Epro Live still worth buying? My thoughts on that are coming up. What's up guys, Justin Greenwald here, welcome to 65 Drums. This is the place to keep on top of all things e-drum related, so consider subscribing if you haven't yet. So today I'm talking about the Pearl Epro Live. Someone recently asked me about this in the comment section of a video, and it got me thinking, you know, I really haven't made a dedicated video about the Pearl Epro Live yet. So let's go back to the origins. I believe it was announced in January of 2010. And its current iteration was announced in like 2015, 2014, where it's powered by export. So the original version actually came with the metal E-Classic Pearl cymbals. Everyone was in the metal electronic cymbals back in the day. Alesis did it with their Tshirt cymbals, Pearl was doing it with their E-Classic cymbals. By the way, those two cymbals were exactly the same, just with different logos. And then, you know, Heart Dynamics used to have metal cymbals. So they used to be popular, but then they quickly fell out of favor because of how loud they are. Also, the Pearl Epro Live used to have that drum rack, and it was a nice set to play. I remember playing it for the first time, and I loved playing just the standard acoustic drum sizes. And you could take the heads off and play it as an acoustic drum set. I don't think it sounded very good because, you know, the shells were very cheaply made because it wasn't really designed to be played acoustically. But if you wanted to, it was definitely a possibility. Also, the colors, like the black color or that maple flame color, whatever you want to call that, I believe it was like a plastic wrap that went around the shell. It was my first electronic drum set I ever played that used real acoustic drum sizes. Now, the drum module is basically the same body as the Alesis DM10, painted red with different drum sounds. Pearl also allowed you to completely wipe, you know, all the kits inside the drum module and replace it with one high definition kit. Sort of like as if you could take one drum set out of Easy Drummer and implant it into a drum module. That's kind of the idea behind that thing. I believe they used to call it memory switch. So that was a cool feature that no one else was really doing at the time. Now, the problem though, is that, you know, the drum module just didn't sound incredible. It was an expensive drum set, kind of sort of competing with Roland and Yamaha, but the problem was it didn't sound as good as Roland or Yamaha drum modules, even though it kept trying to build itself up to as if it was an equal to Roland and Yamaha, but it never sounded quite as good. It was mainly running off of the fact that it looks amazing and you're using real acoustic drum sizes. This drum set had a couple of things going against it. The first thing was, like I said, Roland and Yamaha drum modules sounded better than this Pearl drum set, and they were asking a lot of money for it. The second thing going against it was the metal cymbals. Even though it was incredibly fun to play and looked awesome, it completed the look, it was beautiful, but the problem is it's louder than rubber cymbals, and you buy an electronic drum set because it's supposed to be quiet. So eventually they had to switch to something else, which I'll talk about in a second. And then the last thing going against it was that the drum pads don't feel incredible. They're decent, they are decent. I don't know what kind of material Pearl uses in it, but I prefer the mesh pads and Yamaha's pads over whatever Pearl constructed these pads out of. Okay, so that was 2010. That's almost a decade ago. What's changed since then? Surely they've upgraded something. And yes, a couple of things have changed. Now they actually don't use the drum rack in whatever shells they were using before. I believe there's still a back catalog of some of those drum sets that haven't sold yet because there are websites that still sell that drum set for full price. But if you look at websites like Sweetwater, they don't actually sell that version anymore. Now they sell Pearl Epro Live powered by export. This is basically a bundle that you're buying. You get a Pearl export drum set in the bundle. You get the conversion package that has all the cymbals, the drum module, the cables, and the pads. And the pads come in different sizes, so it doesn't matter what size toms you are, they probably have a conversion package that will fit your drums. And then of course it comes with all the stands, so you're completely ready to go. I forgot to mention, all the cymbals are rubber now. Unfortunately, they're not as high quality as Yamaha cymbals or Roland cymbals. They're like a lower end rubber cymbal, like stuff that comes on Cat Percussion drum sets, Alesis drum sets, Simmons drum sets, that Medley type cymbal. But I'm still glad they switched to rubber cymbals, even if they're not high quality rubber cymbals, because the metal ones were just too loud for the majority of drummers. Also, the other change was that the original hi-hat was mounted on the drum rack. That was one of the reasons why they had to use a drum rack, because the hi-hat wasn't sitting on an acoustic hi-hat stand. In the current version, they actually have a two-piece rubber hi-hat set. basically like a budget version of the VH12, and that sits on an acoustic hi-hat stand. That's very important for the feel of a drum set that's trying to emulate an acoustic drum set. The problem though is they didn't really improve the price very much. I don't remember what it originally cost because that was, again, 7 years ago. I think it was around $3,000, $3,500. Right now it's coming in a couple of different versions. You can buy one for $2,668. There's also a $2,350 version. That's a lot of money, dropping well over $2,000. I will say it's incredibly fun to play. I like playing acoustic-sized electronic drum sets, which is why I have that conversion set behind me. But they're charging too much for it. Let's look at a bit of competition. If you buy the conversion package, the Pearl True Track heads with the drum module right now, it's $1,700. If you go look at Enfused, it's only $1,350. And they come with the drum module, all the pads, all the cymbals. Now there are pros and cons to both of these packages, of course. I think that the Enfused cymbals are actually higher quality, much better cymbals. But I like the Pearl drum pads better than the Enfused drum pads, which are just this really, really boring rubber pad. However, the Enfused pads can be put right over top of your acoustic drum heads. You don't have to remove the drum heads to put the Enfused pads on. You can throw them on really, really quickly. Also, you don't have to cut a hole in your kick drum acoustic drum head in order to install the Enfused pad, but you do with this Pearl pad. So there are pros and cons to both of these packages. But I'm just putting it out there as an example because Pearl isn't the only option when you want to convert your acoustic drum set without having to worry about mesh drum heads and triggers. The other option is Enfused, and you need to look at that. It's actually cheaper than Pearl's option right here. Pearl's drum module is getting old. It came out in 2010. That means it was probably being designed back in 2008 or something. This is old technology. Meanwhile, the Enfused drum module is a lot newer, and it's using a much more powerful set of features. Let's step back a second and talk about the entire drum set as a whole again. So it's $2,350. Now, I will say it's really cool that you're getting a Pearl export drum set. You're not getting a bunch of trash drum shells. If you remove all these Pearl components, you can still play a decent quality acoustic drum set, get some acoustic cymbals, and you're ready to rock. But that's the very problem, because they're pairing a $750 acoustic drum set with a $1,700 conversion package. And of course you get the cymbal stands and the cables as well. So you do end up saving money than if you'd bought all the components separately. But at the same time, I believe they chose a too expensive drum set. If this package had been using cheaper drum shells, the entire price could have gone to sub $2,000, which would have been a lot more reasonable. If you step back and take a look at this drum set, I think you'll agree that it's not really worth buying right now. Just the pads, the module, it's all just outdated at this point. And they're just trying to squeeze a few more dollars and dimes out of this drum set before people completely stop wanting to buy it. However, things are about to change because Pearl has a new drum module. It looks like it might end up being better than the TD50. This is, of course, the Mimic. By the way, this can happen in a second for any drum company if they team up with a VST company. This is what Pearl did. They teamed up with the guys that make Steam Slate drum software. If Yamaha would team up with like TuneTrack and make a new drum module that has Superior Drummer inside of it, it would blow everybody's mind. And that's basically what Pearl is doing with Steam Slate drums. So what happens if they bundle it with this pad configuration? The first thing that everyone will notice is that the drum module will be miles better than the drum pads. So there'll be a mismatch, a quality mismatch between the two. So maybe Pearl will come out with new drum pads. I don't know. But as it is right now, this whole configuration is overpriced and outdated. Just my opinion. I want to know, do you guys actually own this? Any of you have played it or own it right now or have sold it in the past? Let me know down in the comments. I'm interested to find out. Thank you guys for watching. See you in a few.